Welcome to Most Worth Coins WC. Hello friends, welcome to my channel Most Worth Coins WC, where we explore the fascinating world of old and rare coins from around the world. In every video, we dive deep into the history, value, and interesting facts about some of the most collectible and valuable coins ever minted. If you love coin collecting or simply enjoy learning about history through coins, you're in the right place. Make sure to watch the video till the end, like, share, and subscribe to my channel for regular updates on valuable coins you might have in your collection. Thanks for your support. Let's get started. The 1959 Elizabeth II halfpenny is a fascinating piece of pre-decimal British coinage, rich in history, artistry, and numismatic appeal. Struck in bronze, this coin measures approximately 25.5 millimeters in diameter, practically identical in size to the later decimal to pence, and weighs about 5.67 grams, reflecting its origins in the pound SD system. 12 pence to a shilling, 20 shillings to a pound. Obverse features the first portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, sculpted by Mary Gillick, showing the young monarch facing right. Around the bust is the Latin legend Elizabeth tu de gra Brit Regina FD, which expands to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen of all the Britons. Defender of the faith, Gillick's initials MGR subtly incised at the base of the neckline. Reverse depicts the iconic Galleon Golden Hind, Sir Francis Drake's flagship. Above it is the denomination halfpenny, and below is the date 1959. This design lineage traces back to Charles II and carried through George VI and into Elizabeth II's reign, signifying tradition and continuity. And availability, the Royal Mint produced around 79 million pieces in 1959, making it a commonly encountered coin in circulated condition. While not categorized as rare, quality examples in uncirculated or brilliant uncirculated grades, often catalogued under Freeman 483 or Spink 4158, are sought after by collectors. Design and production details. Composition: bronze, primarily copper, with tin and zinc alloying. Edge: plain, no reeding. Designer obverse: Mary Gillick, whose youthful portrait replaced the earlier crowned bust. Reverses: artist: the Golden Hinds. Reverse dates back to the George VI era and reflects classic marine imagery. Historical context: introduced in 1953, the new design replaced George VI's, aligning the nation's iconography with Elizabeth II's reign. Notably, production ceased in 1969 when the coin lost legal tender status ahead of decimalization in 1971, replaced by the smaller decimal 1/2 penny. Collecting and market valuations vary by grade from about £2, £5, $150. The typical retail range for uncirculated coins sold online is $5, $15, reflecting their general availability. Numismatic significance: the 1959 halfpenny bridges era, symbolic of a post-war Britain under a newly crowned queen, yet deeply rooted in centuries of coinage tradition with the Golden Hind motif. While not rare, its historical resonance, pleasing design, and role in pre-decimal British history make it a cherished collectible piece. In summary, the 1959 Elizabeth II de Gratia Regina FD halfpenny is more than a mere coin. It's a piece of mid-20th century Britain, combining regal portraiture, nautical heritage, and enduring design. Whether you're a seasoned collector or simply captivated by British numismatics, it offers both aesthetic charm and historical depth. The 1945 British halfpenny, inscribed with the Latin legend Georgius vi DG Bridge, OEM Rex FD Ind, Imp, stands as a fascinating testament to the numismatic history of mid-20th century Britain. This coin, part of the long-standing tradition of halfpenny denominations, was struck during the reign of King George VI, the father of Queen Elizabeth II, and holds great historical significance as it was produced in the final years of the Second World War. The obverse of the coin prominently features the bareheaded portrait of King George VI facing left, designed by the accomplished artist Thomas Humphrey Paget. Initials HB use careful attention to classical detail and dignified presentation, reflected the national sentiment of stability and resilience during a time of global conflict. Surrounding the portrait is the legend Georgius vi DG Bridge, OM Rex FD Ind, IMP, which in full Latin expands to Georgius Sextus de Gratia, Britanniarum Omnium Rex, Fidei, Defensor, India Imperator, translated as George VI, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India, a title that signified Britain's continued influence over its dominions and colonies, including India, which would gain independence only 2 years later, in 1947. The reverse side of the 1945 halfpenny continues a beloved British numismatic tradition with the depiction of Sir Francis Drake's ship, the Golden Hind, in full sail upon open seas, a design first introduced in 1937 during the early part of George VI's reign. The ship, detailed with billowing sails and intricate rigging, symbolize Britain's proud maritime heritage and colonial legacy, harking back to the age of exploration and empire. Above the ship appears the denomination halfpenny, and beneath, the date 1945 is clearly struck in large numerals. This reverse design was originally conceived by Thomas Humphrey Paget, who crafted a visually dynamic and patriotic image that connected Britain's naval past with its 20th century identity. As a leading maritime power, the design itself had a long lineage, being one of the most recognizable and endearing motifs in British pre-decimal coinage. And its use on the halfpenny, one of the nation's most circulated coins, meant it was a familiar sight in everyday transactions, market stalls, shops, and pubs across the British Isles and colonial territories alike. The 1945 halfpenny was struck in bronze, a traditional alloy composition of 95.5% copper, 3% tin, and 1.5% zinc, which gave the coin its characteristic rich, reddish-brown appearance that would darken over time with oxidation and handling. The coin measures 25.5 millimeters in diameter, weighs approximately 5.67 grams, and has a plain edge. Its size was comparable to the later decimal twopence piece introduced in 1971. Although the halfpenny carried a higher purchasing value in its day, the production of this coin was carried out at the Royal Mint in London, which had resumed full coinage production by this period after the early war years had led to intermittent output and the use of colonial mints, such as in South Africa and India. For some denominations, in total, the mintage for the 1945 halfpenny was substantial, as it was produced to meet the needs of a populous and still ration-restricted post-war Britain, where cash transactions were the norm and small change remained essential for everyday commerce. In terms of historical context, 1945 was a year of momentous change and significance for Britain and the wider world. It marked the end of the Second World War in both Europe and the Pacific, with victory in Europe Day V-Day on May 8, 1945, and victory over Japan, Day VJ Day, on August 15, 1945. These events ended 6 years of global conflict and ushered in a period of political, social, and economic reconstruction. The 1945 halfpenny thus exists as a tangible artifact from this pivotal year, a small but telling witness to Britain's resilience, recovery, and transition from wartime austerity to peacetime rebuilding. It also belongs to a transitional era of British coinage history, as it would be among the last coins issued bearing the title IMP, or Emperor of India, which was formally removed from British royal titles following Indian independence. In 1947, making coins like the 1945 halfpenny important relics of Britain's imperial past. From a numismatic perspective, the 1945 halfpenny holds moderate value in the collector's market due to its historical resonance and relative availability. Being one of the higher mintage years within the George VI series, it is not considered rare, especially in circulated condition. However, well-preserved examples, particularly those graded as uncirculated UNC or brilliant uncirculated BU, command greater interest and premium prices among collectors specializing in pre-decimal British coinage. In circulated condition, a 1945 halfpenny might typically fetch £1 £3 GBP or $2.05 United States dollars, depending on its grade and appearance, while uncirculated pieces could range from £10, £20 GBP or $15.30 United States dollars, with exceptionally well-struck examples reaching higher figures at auctions or specialist dealers. Collecting coins like the 1945 halfpenny allows enthusiasts to appreciate the artistry, craftsmanship, and historical narratives encapsulated within everyday objects of currency. Each coin represents a piece of living history, a link to the everyday lives of the people who handled them, the economic realities of wartime Britain, and the shifting tides of a declining empire. Additionally, for those fascinated by British royal history, the coin also stands as a material connection to King George VI, a monarch whose steady leadership and personal integrity earned him widespread respect during one of the nation's darkest hours. Over the decades, the halfpenny as a denomination itself has disappeared from everyday use. The pre-decimal halfpenny ceased to be legal tender with decimalization on the 15th of February 1971, replaced by the new decimal coinage system. The historical significance of pre-decimal coins like the 1945 halfpenny, therefore, has only increased as they represent a bygone era in British monetary history. Furthermore, the Golden Hind reverse design remains one of the most beloved in British numismatics, celebrated for its maritime charm and symbolism of national pride. In conclusion, the 1945 British halfpenny featuring King George VI is more than just a small coin. It is a vivid token of Britain's wartime perseverance, imperial identity, and the everyday economic and social practices of mid-20th century life, preserved in bronze and eagerly sought by collectors and history enthusiasts alike.